Welcome to Change by Choice, to the newest episode today. So I just thought, in lieu of heading towards Christmas and the holidays, now this could be for any holiday that's out there, but since we have, less than a week until we are hitting the Christmas day, I thought that we would talk about how to set yourself up for success and move out of the holiday stress. So for many of us, it doesn't have to be for people who are just within roles or positions that they are maybe leading up to some time off. Maybe you've already headed into your time off. But for some of us who, are also entrepreneurs and our business doesn't stop just because a holiday comes through, it can be stressful. It can be quite overwhelming to really, get ourselves organized so that we can actually enjoy the holiday season. And so, today we're going to go through how to set ourselves up for success. What are just a few small, simple, steps and systems that we can apply right away to be able to move into a place where we feel like, okay, we can take some time off. And that's going to look different for every single person who's listening out there. Cool. So before we get started, my name is Charlotte Froh, and I own a business called Thrive Consulting, and I also do certified high performance coaching. So I wear two hats primarily, and so that's what I'm blending in with all my coaching that I provide here. It's actually going back and forth between what I do when I'm coaching entrepreneurs, business people, just people in general in life, versus when I'm going in and into a consulting role and working with businesses on that front end. So kind of getting the best of both worlds, which is pretty exciting. I really enjoy it anyways. And hopefully if you're listening still, it's because you're getting something from your time with me on these podcasts. So thank you for all of you who have been supporting me and jumping on loyally. I've been getting your messages. So I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. All right. So setting yourself up for success. So first off, I'm going to assume, let's just pretend I'm talking to the person who is working right up until, let's say Thursday or Friday, and then has some time off after. Again, you're going to have to apply what I'm talking about and just merge it into whatever scenario you're heading into. And if you're already have that time off, then just think about this for next time. Next time you're heading into maybe taking some vacation time with your family or with yourself or with some friends. And there's always that lead up that's stressful. And then there's also coming back, which is stressful, right? I'm sure we've all had that time where we've come back from an amazing trip. And then all of a sudden you get back and it's like, why did I even take that time off, right? Because you've come back to 300 emails, you've come back to life that's kind of hit you in the face, any fires that were there that, maybe didn't get taken care of. And again, depending on what kind of role that you're in, or if you own the business or you don't own the business, or maybe it's just life in general, it can be really overwhelming. And so something that I really came to terms with is I used to be the type of person that just kind of winged things, I was really good, what I thought, really amazing multitasker. I always got stuff done, I was passionate, engaged. And I had this thing where I felt like systems trapped me a little bit. I felt suffocated, I guess, if that's a word to throw out there. And because I just thought I work best when I'm kind of free to just do things the way that I need to do them. And that's still the case. But what I've learned and what I've grown into, especially as I've entered into another layer of busyness, I guess you can say, and multiple pieces, different projects moving at different paces, that require different bandwidth from me, and also managing households. I'm single mom, as I've thrown out there before. Just all the priorities, managing and balancing all of that. It's tough, right? It's really tough. And so systems are essential. And the more routined I am, the more peaceful I am. And so this was really different from how I used to work versus how I work now. And it's not that I'm perfect all the time with them. Like, I've got my systems, I've got the way, my routines, and I always know that when I start to fall out of them is when, I'm not as productive. I'm not as peaceful. I'm not going to bed and sleeping as well as I was before. So it's easier for me to catch myself and realize like, okay, so what's going on right now? And I guess that's what I would say is the first piece to what we're going to be talking about today is awareness. So at some point when you're in a chaotic wheel, in a flywheel, you just keep going and going and going, and you're like, I just don't even have time to stop. You have to stop. At some point, you need to hit the pause button and say, okay, enough is enough. I'm in control here. At the end of the day, it's about doing our very best. It's not about being perfect. And it's about doing the right things and not just busy things. And when you're in that mechanism of going, and just like having no time to not eat, not breathe, not, you know what I mean? You're just in overwhelm all the time. You're not always doing the right things because you're not giving yourself time to stop and think things through, to strategize, to cut where things need cutting, to reorganize. So that first step right now, I just want you to hit the reset button. Hit pause. It's time to just slow it down. So, depending on where you're at, I would really recommend just adding a few layers to before bed and a few layers when you wake up. And the rest will pan itself out. Again, we're just going to focus in on just a few little tweaks because we're talking about a tight timeline, right? And we all, we have the hopes of having a nice, fun, stress-free holiday season. And, we can only do our best right now. So hitting that pause, hitting that reset, maybe starting off tonight, if you can right now, whenever you're listening to this podcast, but just starting to brain dump all the things that really need to happen before you take some time off. I'm talking there's no way you could not get these pieces done, right? They're the urgent pieces. You're urgent. You could even do this in a quadrant. Urgent, important, kind of important, not important at all. And just start to brain dump some of those items and categorize them a little bit. Now, again, it depends on if you have people that help you out, if you're, a sole proprietor, if you, work for somebody else, maybe all of those items fall under you. But I can tell you one thing, when we are in overwhelm and we're just in that mechanism, we're not delegating well. So taking a look at the list, looking at your urgent, important items and starting to ask yourself, is this something that I need to do or is this something that I can pass off? And then going to the important or the very important category and doing the same thing. Maybe with the other two, you just keep your eye on them, but you focus in on the top two quadrants right now, right? So really starting to assess, have a game plan. Then you got to take a look at how you're time blocking yourself. How are you going to fit these pieces into your week? Trying to take into account, you need to eat and you need to sleep. And depending on if you've got family, no family, when your time off actually starts, starting to assess and block all that time out. And giving yourself a little bit of space for the unknown, for things that might just come up. Now, some of you might be like, this is impossible. Like I am back to back. And, the point is you need to start somewhere. This is just going to be a small chip away at like maybe a bigger solution that needs to happen for next time, but at least you're starting to get the mechanism going. And so taking a look to see whether or not you can delegate, who you'd be delegating to, making sure that you're passing off the information clearly. And then again, just looking at your timetable, taking a look at your schedule and seeing where you can block that time in. It might mean rejigging certain items. It might mean taking a look at your meetings and starting to assess, like, are these all urgent and important? Or can I move some till after I get back from my vacation? Maybe there is no wiggle room. Maybe there is. Again, that's for you to decide and to really just start to analyze. This task can take like no more than like 20 minutes, half an hour, but it's just starting to get you to step outside of the mechanism, start to get back into control, and start to make some strategic decisions based on the result that you want to have happen, which is a nice, peaceful holiday season, right? So this is just kind of getting yourself back into that place of like analyzing, right? It's back into the place of organizing. So I recommend that each morning, you know, depending on when you wake up and when you go to bed, like really trying your best to get that 7 to 8 hours of sleep if you can. And, you know, waking up so that you have a little bit of time to do this exercise every single morning. If you want to be in control of your day, right, and you want it to be as calm as possible, how you start your day is how you end your day. So if you start it off chaotic, you're running late, you know, it's just like you have no time to sit and plan and strategize. Don't expect that your day is going to happen and you're going to feel calm and centered. To the very best of times, especially leading up to when we want to take some time off, it's chaotic, right? We always make it through it, you know, but it's about like, what's one thing that you could do differently that might bring that layer of stress down, where you might get to that time and just feel a little bit better about how you set yourself up. And what's worked, or what you think has worked, maybe it hasn't. Maybe it's time to try something new and see if you get a different result. So starting off your day, you know, making sure you're fueled, making sure you're eating well, especially in times like when our levels of stress are much higher. And, you know, I've talked about it before. The holidays are an incredibly joyous time, but they're also an incredibly stressful time. And a lot of people keep that stress layer down low because they don't want their families to see it, and they don't want their spouses to see it, and they don't want their children to feel it. And, you know, they want to make it seem like everything is great. But for many people, it's not. And unfortunately, the more that you press that down, plus there's the added layers of chaos, of stress, of trying to finish off work and meeting deadlines, it's an incredibly overwhelming and can lead people to very anxious and depressing feelings and times. So by adding different layers in and starting to slow the process down just a little bit, you're hopefully setting yourself up for a little bit more peace of mind. Because at the end of the day, if you're not well, it doesn't really matter all the work that you're doing. You're not going to be 5 steps ahead. You're going to be 20 steps behind, especially if your health, you know, if something happens with your health. You have to protect your body and your tool. And productivity is linked to how we feel energized. It's about how we are treating ourselves and our mind and protecting ourselves from those layers of stress. You know, stress, you know, we have stress to help us push through and get to that place of like, you know, really getting stuff done when used well. But it doesn't take much to tip and for it to be a weapon against us, where our immune system becomes low, you know, we become ill. Like it just is something that once you hit that tipping point, recovering back from that can take a long time. You do not want to hit burnout right now. You don't ever want to hit burnout. But burnout in a time that's already stressful, where you need to get stuff done and you want to enjoy your friends and your family and yourself and just have some time for yourself, you know, we need to stop and think, what things are we doing that is causing us to hit that place? What needs to change? They're not huge actions. They're small little choices, small little steps. And sometimes they're very simple. But as we know, sometimes the most simple things, the logical things, the common sense stuff, we're not actually doing. So if you catch yourself being like, oh yeah, I know that, or oh, that's so simple, but you're not doing it. Well, there's a reason why you're not doing it. So it's not about us knowing it or saying it. It's about what are we doing, right? And sometimes just looking at something, and this is going to be another tip, it's have some perspective. You know, sometimes we feel like we're caught with deadlines and we're caught with certain things that have to get done. And yes, there are times where there is no negotiating. Things have to be done, and that's it. You just got to figure out a way to get it done. But I challenge you to take a look at your list and start to ask yourself, is there any wiggle room here? Is there any negotiating that I can do to press some of these things to a little bit later? Are they that urgent and important that they have to get done? Or can they be moved? And so that might just require a conversation or two. You might give yourself a little bit more bandwidth. And that allows you to focus in on the right things, not just focus in on everything that has to get done. So yeah, just a few tips to kind of help you get through. You know, I truly believe in, you got to give yourself some time to reflect, whether that be right in the morning and right before bed, to allow yourself the space to start to analyze, to be like, is this what I need to be doing? Where am I at? How do I need to move forward? It's about developing a strong relationship with yourself so that you can self-coach. So if not, your defense mechanism is the one that's kicking into gear and it's making all your choices. And it's probably making choices based on the past, things that you've gone through, based on fear, based on, I just need to get this done, whatever it is that you kick into when you just have to move forward. And that's not necessarily the right way. And it's not you being in control of how you're doing things. So why don't you try this time and taking that step and just making one change that can just make things just a little bit easier for you. And like I said, many of us, like, you might already be on vacation. So you've got to assess where you're at and, you know, take some time for you. Take some time to really enjoy the holidays, to fill yourself back up again so that you can come back and feel like you're refreshed. Get outside, go do some stuff, whether you have family, friends, children, whatever it may be, but do something that is going to make you happy, make your heart happy. And if you are the entrepreneur and your business doesn't stop, my challenge to you is to have carved out time. If you still need to do a little bit of work throughout the holidays, let it be strategic, blocked out time. Don't just let your work just connect to every single day, every moment of the day where you're at the whim of your phone and not present to the people around you. It's time to just give the present of presents, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We are not just here to work and then die and that's it, you know. Hopefully we're working for something more. And although our work is incredibly important, it's not to lose sight that we are in control. And we have the ability and the power to make changes so that our work can fit within our life. And if it doesn't, and you're not happy, maybe it's time to start to think about how you want your life to go. How do you want to finish off 2016? How do you want to start 2017? So I'm going to end things on that note. And I think that's going to be the topic for the next podcast, is really just how we're finishing up the year and starting up the next. So I want you to start to think about that, right? What things are coming up for you that no longer serve you, that did not bring you to the place that you want to be at in 2016? Therefore, they really kind of need to get cut for 2017. Because it just wouldn't make sense, would it? Let 2017 year be the year of balance and happiness and peace. And that does not mean that it's that it's going to be easy, but it's like, how can you generate that within your life, within your work? Cool. All right. Well, I hope that you guys have an amazing holiday season, amazing Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. And I will chat with you guys again next week. All right. Take care.